Good morning, Dr. Lacey.
Good morning.
You look beautiful as always, my dear.
Thank you. Hopefully everybody is having a wonderful morning. I don't know how many people will get live today just because it's Halloween.
That's right.
Happy Halloween, everybody. The purpose of today is to help get you guys ready and prepared for tonight, or potentially course correct from the last couple days, since Halloween fell on a weird day this week or this year. So good morning, Tisha. And what we're going to cover today obviously pertains to Halloween, but it doesn't only pertain to Halloween. It pertains to birthday parties. It pertains to you fell off track because whatever reason, you had a stressful week. Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, Valentine's Day, doesn't matter, which is why some of the stuff we've talked about before, and even Dr. Steph and I this morning when we were talking about what we wanted to cover today, we're saying, well, haven't we kind of talked about this? And I feel like we cannot stress this enough, because the more you hear it, the more it solidifies and helps you, and you remember how to course correct. We're not asking anybody to ever be perfect. It's just, how do we get back on track? Hello, Jillian. Welcome, welcome.
Yeah, it was funny. I had a patient this week, Miss Kim, and I ran into her in the office, and she's like, "Oh no, he's gonna be so mad at me. Like I fell off track." And
I've been bad.
Yeah, I've been bad. And I'm not going to yell at you, my job is just, pick you up when you fall down. And our expectation is that you are perfect. You are going to fall far short of perfect. I fall far short of perfect. Dr. Lacey, I know you're not perfect all the time. You're more perfect than I am, but
I have very little wiggle room. So.
Very, very little wiggle room.
As my mom says, I'm a breed on my own.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So the whole goal for today is to give you the tools necessary for when you stumble and fall down, to pick yourself back up, dust yourself off. Let's get back in the race, and let's do this thing the right way.
Yep. All right. So these aren't really like in exact orders, because some of it is going to be helpful. Like if you know in advance that you're going to be cheating, I guess, or giving yourself leeway. I don't like using the word cheating because it implies mentally that like you're doing something wrong.
You're gonna have a vacation day.
Yeah, absolutely. So like it's helpful if you do know in advance that you are gonna like not be perfect, because there's a lot of stuff you can do preemptively to help support your body. Because a lot of you guys are food sensitive, have digestive issues, have hormonal dysfunction. So if we know going into it, that helps tremendously, but sometimes that's just not realistic. You have every intention of staying the course when you're going to a party, and then you're like, oh, that looks really good, or peer pressure or whatever. But I will say, like, if you do know that you are going to have a vacation meal, and let's say it's like an evening event, which this is way more helpful, in our opinion, and even one of the things we do, even if we're going to still eat perfect, but know that we're going to eat like a larger quantity, is we implement fasting. And that's just a really easy way to give your digestive system like a break. So again, if you know that you're going into eating something like, or going to be overindulging, you're giving your digestive system a break so that it can extra heal and repair and have like literally a load off of it. So then that way, when you kind of bombard it, it's ready to go.
Yeah, and I like to use pizza as an example of this. So I am crazy sensitive to dairy. I've been dairy free for well over a decade. I do next to zero gluten, because obviously I want to support you, and I know it's not good for me either. So I don't do dairy and I don't do gluten. But if I could have one food with no health ramifications for the rest of my life, it would be pizza. So that I'd say maybe, what would you say, Dr. Lacey? Once every 6 months, I go to Masulo's. Maybe?
Yeah, Tisha's a bad influence on that. So
yeah, Tisha, you can pipe in. I'm gonna rat you out. Like we love our Masulo's once every 6 months or so. So when we set a date and we know we're gonna do that, the number one thing that I do to combat it is that's my only meal I eat that day. So I go like late afternoon, early evening, and I'll have that pizza, but I've had nothing prior to that. So my digestive system, although it's going to have a battle on its hands, it's going to have everything at its disposal to try to get through it, which kind of leads me into my go-to right before I have something naughty, Albizia. And I don't know if you can see that. Albizia as an herb is fantastic at reducing the inflammatory response. I'm reducing histamine production, all these different things to try to calm this down when you do something that your body really doesn't like.
Yeah. And so like, I know like I'm way more sensitive than you, and we know a lot of patients are way more food sensitive than others. Even Albizia is something for me, like I always have like with me, like at home, it's not when I run out of, because even if I'm going to eat somewhere else that's outside of our house where like I can't control every little ingredient and I'm so food sensitive, it's just something that I like to take preemptively, like before going out to eat. Or then also when I get home, because Albizia can be taken like for the next 3 days after a situation. It can be used as a natural antihistamine as well. But specifically, it's really good for like a food reaction. And so like we put a lot of our kids that are super food sensitive on it. But it's something that you can take like beforehand, during, and then after for the next 2-3 days. So like if I know, like the other day I got gluten in my diet, like unbeknownst to me, I could tell immediately by my symptoms, and I'm like, oh gosh. And I was just so thankful we were actually out of town. I had brought Albizia with me, and I just took that, and it really helped support my body, so that I didn't have that like severe reaction. So, and then going back to the fasting thing, I also find it helpful, like if we did like overindulge or eat more, or you ate something that you weren't supposed to, you not only can fast like the day leading up to it, but you can also fast on the back end too. I think that's really important to go over, because a lot of times you maybe don't have intentions of overeating or eating like not approved foods. And so the next best thing that you can do is fast like the next couple of days, or like reduce your feeding window. We're not saying not eat at all, but maybe like if you overindulged last night, like maybe today you only eat like one meal, or you get like a lot of broth in your system, and you do that for the next couple of days so that you're allowing your digestive system to bounce back. So
yeah, and then TMI, but what I always do is the next day after I have something I shouldn't, I wait until I have a significant bowel movement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or I reintroduce more food back into my diet. And, that's up to my body. It could be noon the next day. It could be 2:00 the next day. I don't know. But if your digestive system's already backed up, what sense does it make to add more food to digest on top of a system that already can't handle it? So just really listen to your body there. And I want to back up. So let's go back to Dr. Seth's pizza. I'm getting hungry for pizza, by the way. Pizza example. So and after I have that pizza, I end my night with charcoal. Okay. Can you speak to why charcoal is so important?
Charcoal is a great thing to have on hand for so many things, especially if you have any little ones in your house. But charcoal is just a binding agent that it's kind of like oh crap, I don't know what's going on in my body. Let's just bind up everything. And it's going to bind up some good stuff too, which is why we don't recommend taking charcoal right after you've taken like a bunch of vitamins or herbs. Oh gosh, Tisha's like, let's go for pizza.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we were all good last night. We had a like small get together, and God bless like my family for being on board with eating healthy, and like everything's labeled dairy free, gluten free. So like even when we do events, like I'm so thankful that like I don't ever have to worry about like going off track. Like I know that's not everybody's situation, but I am blessed. But charcoal is something that you would want to take like right before bed, because it will help bind up like any excess toxins that are kind of like floating around in your body. You don't want to take charcoal like every night the rest of your life as like I ate like crap every day, so I'll just take charcoal every day. It doesn't work like that. But again, that's just something that we always travel with. I always have like a little like Ziploc baggie in my purse. And I always have like just like 2 or 3 charcoal pills in case, like, I'm sure you guys have been there where you eat something and you're like immediately like, there was something in this that didn't agree with me, especially some of our patients that are like super allergic to gluten or super allergic to dairy or whatever, or Bailey mustard. It's just something that like takes up such little room to have like in your car, like in your purse, in your backpack or whatever. That will just really help immediately like bind everything out of your system. So
yeah, you said something really, really, really impactful, but we just kind of breezed over it. So I want to circle back to it. So we talked about fasting after we have an meal or a vacation meal or whatever you want to call it. And you said adding broth into your diet is a really good way to come in. So
we're going to talk about that next week in detail.
Yes, in detail. So I'm going to post a recipe in the comments here down below in just a few minutes is how easy it is to make your own broth. Mm-hmm. It's cheap. It's delicious. It's super good for you. It's like a vitamin bomb for your digestive system. It takes
immune support,
no energy to break it down. It's really a perfect way to come off of, compromising your body, which is why, our grandparents and our great grandparents, turns out they were pretty darn smart after all, because whenever you were sick, what did your parents, grandparents, what did they give you? They gave you broth, things that are easy to break down.
But now we've got a commercialized version of chicken noodle soup, which is 0% nutritious. But again, we're going to talk all about bone broth probably next week, because it's such an important topic, especially as we're going into this time of the year where like our digestive systems are like overloaded and like there's more sugar, just all that stuff. So it's a pretty complex topic when you understand what it does. And once you guys listen to it, you guys will be like bone broth connoisseurs like us, because it's just so freaking good for your body. So
yeah, and then some people can't get over the the aversion to bones and that kind of thing. You can also make it vegetable based. Yeah. We'll talk about that in more detail, but just because you're vegetarian doesn't mean you can't get some good healthy broth in you.
Absolutely, collagen.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about Albizia as like a really helpful tool so that you reduce like the histamine production. Basically, you're reducing your IgG response to those foods. We talked about like having charcoal on hand. Another good like natural option to have like in your tool chest for like eating, overindulging too much sugar is an essential oil blend called Digestin. And this is actually one of the first oils we like got into using, because I used to have so much digestive issues prior to understanding food allergies and testing my microbiome and stuff like that. But Digestin is just such an easy, simple tool to always have on hand, because immediately when you apply it to your digestive system or you put it in water and drink it, it's a digestive system regulator. So it's not curing what's going on. It's just reducing a lot of the symptoms that come along with eating bad food. So like the bloating, the gas, the like cramping. Like I know for me, when I eat, like I don't eat gluten. If gluten happens to be in a food that wasn't supposed to be, I get like immediate, like sharp intestinal pain. Like I know exactly what it is. And so I always go and grab Digestin so that I can at least be like more comfortable and then do all of my protocols on the back end. But this is great for kids. This is something we recommend everybody use after tonight, after they eat all of the ridiculous amounts of candy, which drives me bananas. That's a whole nother talk for a whole nother day.
But one of the things I love about Digestin, Dr. Lacey, and you can really speak to this, is it's a smooth muscle adaptogen.
Yeah.
What's so cool about that is you have these muscle fibers that are in your intestines, and that's what contracts to move waste along the body. Yep. Well, if you have so much contraction, it's going to come out too fast. If you have not enough contraction, it's going to get stagnant. And so Digestin gives the body the support that it needs to regulate that process. It is a game changer.
Even for like my little patients that are like backed up, there's obviously, we need to address why that's happening. But again, like a natural holistic hack is use some Digestin, rub it on the belly. It can be a little like intense. So you may want to put like some lotion or some coconut oil or something like that. But like within seconds, you immediately feel relief. So again, this is something that I also carry around with me. Not everybody's as food sensitive as I am. I actually think it's a blessing personally, because if I could get away with it, I would probably eat pizza and carbs and gluten every day, which is not good for you, no matter if you have symptoms or not. But I'm always prepared. And we laugh, like we went to this pumpkin patch with a bunch of our patients this week. And I'm like, oh, do you have this? And everybody kind of was like, nah, we knew we were going to be with you guys. So we're like, we knew you'd have whatever issue handled under control. And that's just it. I kind of always have like the Mary Poppins bag of stuff, because I don't ever want to be caught in a situation where we like, now we have to leave because I don't feel good. And that was my life leading up to knowing what we know now. So
hyper planning.
Yeah. Remember when we had to come home from Vegas because I got so sick?
I do. That was the only time I ever was up in Vegas, was I was playing blackjack and I was up, and then you're like, we got to go home. I'm sick. And I was like, okay. And then all my winnings went to a
new plane ticket,
a new flight to get home.
Yeah. Hopefully none of you guys have ever experienced that, but how many of you guys, even if you're watching this on the replay, like have had such bad digestive issues because your body's so sensitive, which is a good thing, that you've had to like come home early or miss the party or be like stuck in a bathroom. Like, oh, it's so frustrating. And so that's kind of why, like we always say, we're you guys as healthcare advocates, because like we don't want people sick, suffering, miserable, thinking that that's just like what they're destined to be. Like IBS is not normal, like irritable bowel, like chronic constipation, chronic food sensitivity, like all of that stuff is not normal. I think it was really cool. We were at an event last night, and one of our patients was like explaining like her process of how she didn't know she was sensitive to all these foods, and then, you know, cleared her gut and microbiome and did a ton of work restoring her body, like getting it healthy, worked on her hormones, and like how much easier it is for her to eat food and adapt. And like, you know, so like sometimes if you catch people like in the beginning process of like clearing this out, it can seem extreme, I suppose, because you're like, can't eat this, can't eat that, I need to do all these supplements, I need to do all these herbs. But again, it's so worth it, because if you can heal your body and give your body that support so that you can go back to being like as normal as possible without sickness, it's so freaking worth it 10 out of 10 times, you know? So.
Well, and then also just changing that, because what ends up happening is people get used to their routine and it becomes their normal. Mm-hmm. The way that we operate in standard American society is not normal. It's like, well, I don't know, I don't feel sick, or I look fine, or this person looks fine, they eat whatever. What are you comparing that to? We are swimming in the waters of the sickest country in the developed world, and you're saying, well, I don't know, everybody looks just fine to me. They're not just fine. So if we can reset some of these behavioral indoctrinations, you give your body a chance. I mean, you know, case in point, marketing's not going to get me, but if you sit down and watch a football game, how many ads are you going to see for junk food? I mean, dozens. And it gets wired into our brain as that's just totally acceptable behavior. And the reality is it's not acceptable. So breaking the chain at some point, hopefully we can provide a great example for our kids, grandkids, the next generation can catch on a lot faster than we did. Right. Yeah.
And that's why, like, I'm a huge fan of like sharing this information with your friends. And like, sometimes in the beginning, they're gonna be like, oh my God, you're so extreme. But that's why for me, and I know you, like, we so work on pouring into our family and our friends so that like when we're at events, nobody wants to go to a disgusting restaurant, because everybody's like, no, why would we do that? And so everybody makes healthier choices. And so like, we're all in it together. And that's like the purpose of these groups and this community that we're creating, is for you guys to get ideas of how you can still do things and go be a part of everything and not feel like you're over here being restricted and then everybody over here is doing their own thing, which leads me to anytime we go to an event, especially with like family or friends or whatever, I always bring Digeszymes, which are digestive enzymes. And it's funny because last night we were doing like a family get together for Halloween, and I'm like, I brought the Digeszymes, who wants them? And I'm like handing them out like candy, and everybody knew I would be in charge of that because, again, Mary Poppins bag.
Yeah, normally you're supposed to bring like beer to a party or like cases of wine or something, and you bring betaine hydrochloric acid.
Yeah, so, I bring enzymes. Yeah, you're welcome. Everybody was thankful. So
yeah, they were, and they went quick too. So it's all good.
Yeah, absolutely. So digestive enzymes are also another really good thing. Eating bad, vacation meal, just in general, digestive enzymes are so good for so many people, and that's like a whole nother topic that we're going to talk about. Long story short, it's because most of us live in a high stress, high paced, fast world. And so as a result, one of the things that's affected is our stomach acid production. So on average, nobody does this. You're supposed to eat and chew your food 30 times per bite before you swallow. Like, come on, nobody does that. But that's really what your digestive system needs to like be healthy and not have issues. And so like a nice hack that you can do is taking digestive enzymes with every meal to help support that stomach acid production. Again, this is going to be a whole nother topic about how we need to get back to sitting down, relaxing, being in a parasympathetic state before you put food in your body, right? That's been a huge
change. Turning the phones off, playing classical music, relax, right. Having conversation, that whole thing, you know.
Yeah. So digestive enzymes are really good to take with your meals or during. You never want to take them after your meal because they are increasing acid production. Even if you have acid reflux, digestive enzymes are still appropriate. Correct, Dr. Seth?
As long as there's no ulcer, yeah, you should be taking them.
Now there's multiple different types of digestive enzymes. That's really where we always go back to getting your microbiome tested to know what enzymes you need specifically, because there are more generic ones. There are ones that help support your digestive system and your pancreas. There are some that are just like straight acid,
hydrochloric acid, yeah.
So again, that's where testing really comes into play, so that we're not guessing. We know specifically what you need. But again, across the board, just a digestive enzyme. We're a huge fan of Thorne's, Biogest.
Designs for Health, we like.
Has some good ones. Standard Process has some good ones. But by and large, like Costco, no, like the Vitamin Shop, you really want ones that are like therapeutic grade, that typically are only allowed underneath like doctor supervision, because they're actually going to give you what you need. So,
and if you're ever not sure, don't take a picture of the front of it and send it to me. Take a picture of the back of it and send it to me. The front of it's marketing. I want to know what's really in there, and I can help guide you accordingly. Now, I do think digestive enzymes or betaine hydrochloric acid is a great short-term solution, but the long-term solution is addressing the cause of the problem. You should not have to take enzymes for the rest of your life for digestive health. If you're doing that, what that means is you're constantly in a sympathetic state and you have not addressed it. Okay. So if you're getting chased by a grizzly bear or something, the last thing your body's going to want to do is put energy into breaking down food. It's going to put energy into your muscles. So hopefully you don't get eaten. Okay.
Right.
But if we have that prolonged exposure, that's where the digestive problems come from. So getting your body in a parasympathetic state, getting really good at digestion in the long term, that's the solution, not hydrochloric acid.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So, and again, that's what these groups are for. I know a lot of time it's just us teaching, but like the groups are here for you guys to send a picture and say like, hey, is this a good digestive enzyme? Hey, is this a great Albizia? Oh my gosh, I totally cheated last night and this is what I did. Like, please ask for help. Invite your friends. Like, that's what this group is for. I see Tracy's in here. She lives in Texas. So it doesn't matter that you guys aren't local. Like, we have the ability to help everybody anywhere. We're actually working on a whole entire protocol or program for starting in January with classes. I know a lot of you guys that were local keep asking, when are we doing classes again in person? We're not, but we're going to do an entire series in all of 20. What are we going to be in
2022?
Wow, time flies. With just different topics and things like that. And again, we're going to do digital based because we see that there are people in Texas, there are people in Colorado. And this really helps you like get, again, connected, get in that community with like your people, your tribe. And it's not so limiting as just only being in Elk Grove, California. So that's what's on the docket for 2022, which is exciting. So cool. All right, everybody. We hope you guys all have a fun and safe Halloween. Again, please ask questions this next week if you guys fall off track or you just want some support or guidance. We are here for you guys, and have a great Halloween. Don't eat too much candy, as I say.